When you think of a hospital, what comes to mind? Healing life? Medical professionals ready to save your life? That is, if you're talking about a regular hospital, that is. What if you were to visit a derelict abandoned hospital instead? Would you feel uneasy? Probably. Your body reacts to things like this instinctively because they tend to be creepy. They also make for great settings for horror games and films. Let me go ahead and read it to you, and then we'll discuss some extra details that will only send shivers down your spine. I went exploring an abandoned hospital at midnight with my friends. There was a big city nearby. We thought it would be fun to go to the old abandoned city hospital near where we live. My friend's brother said he knew someone who worked there and could let us in. When we got there, it was fairly easy to sneak in. It was a very cold October night. It was raining too. The main part of the hospital was a big white building. It reminded me of a cruise ship. We went inside. We weren't prepared. The front desk lady must have seen us, though, because she yelled at us to leave. She told us that people had died under mysterious circumstances in the hospital. She said we should leave immediately. But then again, that's probably just what she wanted us to do. Of course, I'm not saying that she's involved in whatever sinister activities are going on there. But anyway, we left and hid in some bushes outside. After about 30 minutes, we started to walk around the building. All of the windows were boarded up except for one. The glass was smashed in that one, so we went through there. The lobby was pretty messed up. All of the chairs were in a pile in the middle of the room. Someone had written on the wall, "Help me." The person had scratched this into the paint with a key or something. We walked down the first floor, but all of the doors were locked. Some of the signs pointed towards staff only. Others just fell off the hinges. We came to a door with a sign reading staff only. It was slightly open, so we pushed it open and walked inside. The room was small and had nothing in it but a filing cabinet. We heard something fall over in the next room. I got really scared. My friend stood by the door and watched. Nothing happened. One of my friends called out, "Hello!" Then something fell over again. We waited and listened, but there was nothing. We walked into the next room, but it was empty. We went back and saw that the door had closed. Tried to push it open, but it wouldn't budge. One of my friends found a staff room next door with a window. We pried it open and managed to squeeze through. The window was about chest height. We made it outside onto the roof. The rain had stopped, but it was still cold. One of them had a photo of a woman and children. Another showed a man with a name tag that read Dr. Stevens. We came to a room with 2 gurneys inside. Several metal trays were on the floor. The gurneys had no mattresses on them, but there were a few sheets lying around. I don't want to be too graphic, but the sight made me think of someone being prepared for surgery. My friend joked, maybe we should play some surgery-themed video games. We didn't stay long. We didn't want to play any games. We found a storage room with an old TV and video game console. We left after a few minutes and headed back to the front lobby. The clock on the wall showed the time was 12:57 a.m. I checked my phone and saw the time was actually 12:59. How was the clock wrong by 2 minutes? It wasn't the only one either. Time was still 12:57 on every clock we'd seen since we arrived. It was getting late and we wanted to leave, but we couldn't find the front door. We went outside again through the same window. It was much easier to see during the day. We quickly found the front entrance and left the building, but that's not where the story ends. Before we go further, please remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch our latest videos. Now back to the story. We were all very relieved to be out of that place. Couldn't wait to get home. We walked to the car in silence. No one spoke until we were halfway there. My friend said, "What did you think? That was crazy." I told him I wanted to go home. He asked if I wanted to go back and check out the place across the street. I refused, but he insisted. He said it would be funny if we could find some zombies there. I agreed to go, but I didn't expect much. The building was a big gray block. It seemed kind of normal from the outside. There was a red cross above the door. The red had faded and turned brown. It looked like a prison more than a hospital. My friend went inside and I stayed in the car. I couldn't see anything in the darkness, but I could hear some noise. My friend called out, "Hello, is anyone there?" No one answered. He came back outside a few minutes later. He told me, "That place is creepy as hell. Feels bad." I agreed and suggested we go home. When we got to the intersection, we saw a house. There was a light on in one of the upstairs windows. It was the only house on the entire street with lights on. We figured someone lived there. We drove past without paying much attention. About 5 minutes later, we heard sirens. We looked back and saw flashing blue and red lights in the distance. We assumed it was police or maybe an ambulance. We continued on, and the lights disappeared from view. About a minute later, they appeared again, only now they were much closer. We turned around and drove back. My friend was pale. Said, "What if it's coming from that house?" I told him to calm down. Maybe the police were looking for us. They might have been looking for the people who lived in that house. We passed it again, and the sirens grew louder. Now they were definitely coming from the house. I told my friend to stop the car. I got out and ran to the house. I knocked on the door and called out, "Hello." No one answered. I pounded on the door and screamed, "Hello!" Still nothing. I ran back to the car. My friend had his foot on the brake. We both jumped when the door opened. I rolled down my window and asked the driver if everything was okay. He told me to mind my own business. I closed my window and leaned back. The man drove away. We got home safely, and I haven't been back to that city since. Honestly, I don't plan on going back anytime soon. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this week's story, and if you did, be sure to follow for more. We publish new videos weekly. If you love hearing scary stories like this, let us know in the comments. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Until next time, remember, don't go exploring abandoned buildings, especially not at midnight. You never know what you might find. Thanks for watching.